Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to today's panel on what do the next 12 months look like for the performance marketing industry. If you'd asked us 6 months ago, I think you'd probably get some very different responses than what you'll get today. The impact of the global pandemic means things have changed for all of us, both professionally and personally. So hoping to talk about some of those subjects today and hear the views of our panel. So we've got a great panel. We've got representation from network side, client side, and publisher side, all very focused on affiliate marketing within the performance marketing space. So quick introduction to myself. I'm Helen Southgate. I work at Acceleration Partners. We're an industry leading agency and we help brands grow their marketing partnerships. So I will start with Raki. Let's go over to you.
Great. Good day, everybody. I'm Raki Jogia. I'm the VP of Publisher Partnerships on the international side, so essentially handling all publisher partnerships outside of the North America region. And I'm part of the Rakuten advertising team, so we are also a performance marketing company specializing in affiliate, display, search, and attribution technologies.
Great. I'll go next. I'm Mumtaz Kamker. I'm the Global Head of Strategic Growth at Webgains, another global affiliate network as well. Very pleased to be here today.
Hi ho, I'm Daiana Iacono, Client Service Director at Awin Italy, so part of the Awin Group. I start apologizing for my Italian accent. I hope not to be too much pasta pizza Pavarotti style today.
I'm Hannah Marks. Oh, sorry. I'm Hannah Marks. I'm the affiliate manager at Treatwell, which is a beauty booking marketplace.
And I'm Claire Jocelyn. I'm the general manager for coupons at Groupon, so looking after the Groupon Reach network, which is our voucher cloud Groupon platforms alongside Mirror, Mumsnet and Guardian across EMEA and APAC.
Great, thank you everybody. So I think one subject that we're clearly going to kick off with, so what effect has COVID-19 and the global pandemic had on your businesses? Hannah, I think it'd be great to start with you from a client perspective. Treatwell is a business which, when lockdown came in across Europe, essentially stopped. People weren't going to salons and spas. So I'd be really interested to hear your point of view on the effect that had on the business and on the performance marketing channel in particular.
Yeah, so we went into lockdown gradually because we work across Europe. So we saw some markets close before others, and the kind of approach to each market was quite different. In Italy and Spain, they were very, very reluctant to shut the salons, and then in other markets they were shut quite early on because people thought, it's very close contact, we can't guarantee that it'll be hygienic. So it happened quite gradually. We had a lot of kind of closed company updates letting us know what was happening in each market. We did have estimated dates for when we thought we'd be returning to the market, which were way out. I think we were expecting about 3 or 4 weeks of closure in each market. So yeah, we had to check in all the time. We knew about as much as anyone else. I was under the assumption that the senior team will be getting information before the general public, but that wasn't the case at all. So we were very much just taking it day by day. But our main focus as a business was to make sure that the salons were still able to operate when we were able to return to the market. So the company really focused its efforts on supporting the salons and letting them know what resources were available, how to keep the business afloat during this time. And then for performance marketing, most channels we had to switch off, but with affiliates we kept it on for the duration, and we kept our commission rates the same. We weren't able to book tenancy, we weren't able to have promo codes because it just wouldn't be a good user experience to be encouraging people to come to the site. But we do have a lot of people who wanted to book. I mean, I myself, even every time I thought there was a date that the UK salons would be open again, I was booking for that date. So yeah, touch wood for the 4th of July. But yeah, we left the affiliate program running and just saw a very high cancellation rate. So it wasn't the best experience, but we didn't want to switch the program. We didn't want to make any major changes that might impact our relationships in that time.
And I think it's interesting you said, other performance channels effectively had to pause, but not the affiliate channel. And was it really that relationship point which you didn't want to damage? You didn't want to have to go back what could have been, like you said, 3 weeks, but it could have been 3 months, which it is now, and say, yeah, sorry about that, guys. Can you come back?
Yeah, I mean, there was the risk of communications getting lost. I think there was so much going on at that time that it was quite a difficult time to communicate with people. People were still able to book. So every time we got an update, we just booked those appointments. So the site and the app were running. So we wanted, if people were able to send traffic that just wanted to book really far in advance, there was no reason for us to stop them doing that. Yeah, and also we have quite a robust automatic validation process. So even though we did have quite a high cancellation rate, we were confident that we wouldn't be paying for bookings that weren't taking place. So it was a very easy channel to just leave running without much work needing doing.
Great. I think that's great. And I think, publishers hopefully will really appreciate that. Thanks, Hannah. Thinking about, I guess, another sector, particularly about retail. So, Raki, Mumtaz, Daiana, you work network side, you work with a lot of retailers. I think that's a really interesting sector because offline completely shut down. All the shops had to close across Europe for several weeks, months, and they're just coming back. And a report today I saw said that a third of retail sales were made online in May, which is huge. That's the biggest kind of percentage I think we've ever seen. And also the other weeks are saying, they're closing a number of shops to invest in online. From your experience working with lots of different retailers across the networks, what impact have you seen and what do you think that means for the future of that sector within affiliate marketing?
So I can go first. So we've actually benefited, really, I would say, from the situation. We recently released early numbers for performance, and you can see there that we seem to have done quite well in a lot of categories like home and garden and toys and hobbies. So whilst travel and tourism maybe hasn't done as well, we've done really well in the other categories. Also, in terms of stores, I just want to sort of maybe mention something here as well. A lot of advertisers in the general affiliate industry, a lot of them are actually pure play. So they may not have as much of a store footprint as the likes of Zara. But I do think that there may be a comeback for stores in the future. So, for example, if someone ended up coming up with some innovations to keep stores and restaurants clean and in an agile manner, you can maybe see the confidence increasing and people going back to stores again. Definitely in the short term, it is going to be a nightmare for retailers having to quarantine clothing for 72 hours, people not being able to touch fabrics. That's really going to take all the fun out of offline shopping if anyone who enjoys that. So definitely short term, stores are suffering, will suffer, but long term, we may see a comeback.
Yeah,
That's
I
it from me.
definitely agree with I definitely agree with a lot of Mumtaz's summary there. We've seen a lot of kind of high street retailers get hit very hard by the recent situation. I think it is interesting if you are a pure play, bricks and mortar store, you are going to be hardest hit by your supply demand chain because you rely on those consumers actually going in store to shop and buy those products. We're very fortunate to be in a very strong e-commerce industry, so really looking at how we're driving a lot of sales through, again, pure play retailers online. You have to look at retailers like Net-a-Porter, Mattress Fashion, those guys. And actually, if we think about where COVID hit first, obviously a lot of those Asian markets were hit first in the first quarter, but a lot of those consumers started to recover and we saw purchasing power almost kind of February, March onwards. So we started to see a lot of our retailers recover off the back of that. But I think Mumtaz raises a good few points around, where do we think recovery will happen in short term, long term? I think it really is going to be down to, how people innovate in the space, how they really rethink their own commerce strategies. And e-commerce is going to be a large part of that. How are they thinking about payment solutions, delivery solutions, making their supply and demand chains much more easier, frictionless for consumers to purchase? I mean, myself, I've probably spent so much money through Amazon, but they make their consumer buying cycle so easy for consumers. So I think a lot of retailers are going to need to take inspiration from that and rethink a lot of their strategies in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point around, retailers probably have realised that they need to be a bit better online. Some of them are great already, like say some of the pure play, but some of the more traditional retailers, it's the future. It's kind of where everything's going to be. So it's really interesting. Daiana, you head up Italy. One of the hardest hit European countries, the first to go on lockdown. We were all looking at Italy, and we saw what was coming. I think particularly in the UK. What have you seen potentially different in Italy compared with some of the European markets, which perhaps a few weeks behind?
Yeah, I think that the starting point was completely different because before COVID, the internet user penetration was around 69%, with only 0.7 million of new buyers per year. So compared to UK, nothing. On April, the penetration increased a lot to 73%, but the number of new buyers, increased to 2 million in only 2 months. This has brought for sure a very positive change for many brands and publishers as well, of course, depending on the industry, so excluding travel. And so even in Italy, that was behind in terms of e-commerce, the adoption compared to the other countries such as UK or Germany, we see an overall increase of performance. And we track a strong increase in sub-industry that were considered emerging before, such as pet care and food, but also household products. The food sector, that I think in the other country was very useful to go and buy online. In Italy, was not like that, so it was only the 5% of total e-commerce. And this, from one side, it was very bad because the brands were not prepared to this explosion of e-commerce. What I can say that now the brands are changing very quickly. I read an article this morning of fast fashion brands, Italian brands, that were trying to create like video shopper that help you to choose your perfect outlook, or to help to buy. So things are really changed very quickly in Italy.
Great, thanks, Diana. I think it's fascinating, like you say, just a complete consumer behaviour change. And it'll be interesting to see if that continues or doesn't, or it reverts back to normal. I guess we'll see over the next few months. Claire, thinking about publisher side, like we've just kind of talked about, we've seen some ups, some downs, some people done well, some people not so well. And, publishers have really been on the end of that. A lot of it has been out of their control. I think one of the things that we've seen is perhaps that Cashback and Voucher have potentially been harder hit than some other publishers. So I'd be really interested to see, at Groupon, have you seen that effect? Why do you think that is, or do you think it's starting to change and there's some positive outlook?
Thanks, Helen. I think in terms of the voucher and cashback space, I think it's twofold. One way you look at it, we're in a very lucky position where we work across vertical. So where we see, the initial first hit was the travel decline, as borders were closing, people were being advised not to travel, and seeing kind of declining travel rates, or declining sorry, decline rates in travel increasing, and then consumer demand dropping. But on the other side, we then saw complete spikes in terms of some verticals really jumping. As Mumtaz said earlier, home and garden, entertainment, online takeaways. So actually, being quite reactive and sitting across a number of different verticals, I think we were actually very well positioned to make the most and adapt to where the consumer demand was moving to. Italy, in particular, we actually saw quite a spike in terms of the numbers of customers. As we look at kind of Daiana's figures, the numbers of customers actually searching and shopping online, searching for discount codes increased as well, threefold. So we were able to work in some new verticals across that COVID period. On the flip side of this, and I think one of the core reasons why we've probably seen a bigger impact across voucher sites and cashback sites over this COVID period, is really down to the ability to quickly turn on and off the tap when it comes to the demand, the supply from publishers. That helps us massively in certain times when retailers are looking for higher demand, looking for stronger demand, looking for more exposure placements. But when it comes to actually mitigating the demand, whether that's because you're at full capacity operationally, distribution wise, you actually can't cope with an influx of more orders, especially in some of these verticals that were seeing tremendous threefold rises in terms of consumer traffic, people trying to do some stuff outside in the gardens because the weather was sunny and everyone was stuck at home, is something we saw across Germany, across the UK, in terms of our home and garden sales. But the ability to turn the tap on and off is very detrimental in terms of the voucher publishers that have high traffic, can generate high traffic, can generate the demand for the product with their consumer bases. And it was a bit of a minefield to navigate programs being switched on, switched off over this period. There was a lot of manual work involved in understanding which days, which programs were paused, where commission rates were decreased. Awin actually brought out a good tool to enable publishers and help them see and identify which brands were pausing their programs, what alternatives could be promoted at the same time. But as a publisher, we did an awful lot of work with our key clients to be able to mitigate and control the demand that we were driving to sites. So Amazon, for instance, we switched our move directly to digital offerings so that we could reduce the traffic flow, reduce exposure across all other metrics, and mitigate the level of traffic and the level of customer orders that was really putting Amazon in a pretty tough position, especially when it came to distribution in some of the European markets that we saw first hit. But overall, it's been a slightly rocky road for voucher and publisher sites navigating through, but I think a very exciting one when it comes to working directly with clients post COVID with recovery packages. How do we get these brands the level of traffic that they were seeing before?
And I think, like Hannah was saying at the beginning, relationships were really important to them as a client and through the affiliate channel. From your point of view and how you work with clients, if they've been open and, told you what's going on, helped you out where they can, does that kind of help you help them over the next 12 months as well?
Absolutely. I think affiliate marketing it's a sector that's built on relationships, and without relationships, we wouldn't have a lot of the success that we drive together, clients with publishers. So I think, yes, absolutely, it's been really important to savor those relationships, building them throughout this period. And as Hannah said, maybe it was necessarily based on relationships. It was based on, the ability to just let a channel run because it's delivering an ROI, or you can control the decline rates. or declined transactions, etc. I think throughout this period, as a publisher, we've seen the transparency, I think, is key to being able to rebuild post-COVID.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Claire. And I think, we've talked about ups and downs, but without a doubt, the next few months, maybe even longer, are going to be challenging across the UK and Europe. In April, the UK economy shrank by 20%. Germany potentially going into a second wave. Let's hope not. But the future is very uncertain, the most uncertain it's ever been. And I recently read a stat around the UK ad market saying potentially it's going to drop about 9% this year, which is huge. Is going to have a big impact. Raki, I was interested in a report I saw from Rakuten saying, although ad spend is down, it feels like affiliate marketing as part of that actually is doing okay and will continue to do okay. I'd be interested to see if you can kind of expand on some of that, and what do you think that means for the longer term impact for the affiliate channel?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd probably start by saying, we've kind of been here before. You remember the kind of 2008 recession. It was kind of my first few years in affiliate, and it was actually very interesting having, gone through some of the shifts in, media budget, a lot of CPM, CPC budgets at the top of the funnel. And we're seeing its same trends today, right? We're seeing a lot of that budget's being cut or pulled back from an ad spend perspective. And a lot more brands are really looking towards the performance channels, very positive ROI driven channels, to be able to kind of invest in those channels as well. But there, we are very lucky that we have a well-established industry. We have transparency, we have reporting, we are able to look at things like incrementality. So we've come a long way since 2008. But as a result of that, I think, um, I think Claire and Hannah make a great point around, brands being able, and brands and publishers being able to turn on and off the taps, right? We think about supply and demand. We go, well, how much stock do we have to be able to shift? How much budget do we have within our own channels? And then equally, what are the publishers seeing from a trend perspective? So I think from a partnership perspective, it's working really closely with both the advertiser and publisher side to really understand what are their goals in the short term, at least. I mean, a lot of the conversations we're having, it's not a surprise. It's around positive ROI driven relationships. How can we pause on, some of the tenancy budget we might be spending over here to be able to do more on a CPA basis? Actually, I think publishers have been pretty amazing in terms of creating lots of great packages around COVID to be able to provide, additional exposure off the back of CPA increases, or even tenancies as well. So that kind of added exposure, added benefit to make sure that they're converting the traffic that they're seeing as well. So I think we've been pretty agile for a very long time, and we can really pivot more towards that performance metric. But very lucky that we're in an industry that is able to kind of drive forward.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Raki. And yeah, I remember the 2008 recession as well. It just made me feel quite old. But thank you. I think, Hannah, from a client perspective, as we're saying, it's a very uncertain future. We really don't know what's around the corner. We could go back on lockdown. Some countries could go, even some areas within countries could go on lockdown. How are you managing that as a client? How are you thinking about scenario planning, and what impact might that have on the affiliate channel?
I think, like everyone has said, we just don't know what's going to happen. So rather than having, we had a very detailed 5-year plan, which has gone completely out of the window now. I think we really are just taking things week by week. The budget meetings that we would previously have monthly, we're now having weekly with kind of a midweek check-in. We've moved our focus well away from kind of booking targets and income targets, and our focus at the moment is just making sure that every penny that we spend is spent well. So normally we have a monthly meeting, which for the whole company, which kind of we see where our performance is at against budget, what's going on, and it's we're quite a young, quite flexible company, so we have adjusted quite well. I think we've got off the top of my head, I think there's somewhere between 3 and 5 scenarios that our finance team have put together, which are amazing. So we have the best case scenario, the absolute worst case scenario, and then everything in between. So we've just kind of accepted we don't know. We don't know how many countries, or if all countries are going to go back into lockdown, if lockdown is going to last 2 weeks at a time, or if it's going to be 12 to 15 weeks again. So we're just communicating as much as possible, checking in with each other, making sure, like I said, that the money that we do spend is spent really well. Looking more at incrementality and lifetime value than ever. But in terms of predicting how many bookings we're going to have in Q4 this year, we just don't have a clue.
Yeah, it's very challenging. Like I say, I think most plans everyone had at the beginning of the year are completely thrown out.
We have a big plan.
It's
not happening.
Yeah, I like the 3 to 5 scenarios. You made me think. I think I've got 2. I might need to add to mine, which would be fun.
Yeah, no, our finance team have been incredible forecasting it, and they're very open with the business. We did have staff on furlough, and we had to make huge budget cuts and things like that. We have had to make quite a lot of sacrifices to keep the performance marketing channel even just open. But I think we have responded really well, and I think because of our targets that we had in place anyway, we were quite cautious with our spend anyway, so it wasn't too difficult. We didn't have to bring in any kind of new metrics or any new ways of doing things. We just had to be even more on top of them.
Great, thank you. Then from a network perspective, so Daiana and Mumtaz, and particularly to you, you have a wide range of clients across various different verticals. Your account managers, often have to forecast and plan. How are you kind of thinking about talking to your clients about planning the affiliate channel over the next 6 months? And I think particularly going into Q4, which generally is the biggest quarter, it's going to be different this time round. So what are you kind of talking to your clients about?
Definitely long-term planning should still be happening for sure. I mean, in the past, we've done things like, Christmas in August or Christmas in July. There's no reason, even with COVID, why, account managers across the industry should still not be continuing to plan well in advance. And in fact, what Hannah was saying earlier about scenario planning, it's definitely worthwhile having a couple of scenarios ready. So, your normal target, a sort of maybe an increased target, and then maybe something like if things don't go as well, what could we drive then? I mean, that should be part of normal planning in any case, but now it's even more important with what's going on to sort of be looking at things like this as well. And also, if you're running a multi-market campaign, it might well be that for your client, you may want to look at for what their overall target is. But if, say, another country has fared better in the pandemic, and the sales are pretty good, maybe focus on that country more to drive more of the share of the budget as well. I don't know if that helped.
Yeah, no, it really does. I just think, clients will be thinking, how do we plan, right, for the next 6 months, even into 2021? And I think it's
Correct.
good to hear some of those thoughts. Great. One thing Mumtaz said, which I thought was interesting, she said, normally we're planning for Christmas in August. Claire, from Groupon's point of view, yeah, you'd normally be doing all of this stuff, like the packages would be coming through. That must feel a little bit strange at the moment. How are you kind of managing that? Because Christmas probably isn't the number one thing on people's minds at the moment. So I'd be interested to hear kind of, does that change your perspective a little bit on how you pitch things to clients?
I think it's a really interesting and really topical discussion point, because it actually came up last week in a meeting. Why haven't we got our Black Friday bi-weekly call scheduled in yet? And actually, we did just that. We realised that actually we've been focused so much on the here and now and the planning for Q3 that actually Q4 pretty much got pushed to the back. Whereas this time last year, we would have been probably in our fifth or sixth Black Friday planning session as a business, understanding, setting our strategy, exploring what opportunities we had for product development, for development on site, for the advertisers that we work with. And quite rightly so. I don't think it is right for it to be pushed to the back. Q4 more than ever this year is going to be essential for advertisers. They'll be looking to recoup the sales that they were not guaranteeing to have lost during this last quarter, and probably during the next quarter. So it's absolutely essential as a publisher group that we have a solid strategy in place, ready to lift clients as we walk into Q4. But also a lot of the planning and a lot of the time, and probably why Black Friday has kind of slipped back of mind over the last 2 months, is because the real focus has been on COVID relaunch packages, and how can we use the different channels that we have, email, push notification, desktop push, how can we use those channels to help clients lift out of recovery during Q3? So that's exactly what we've been doing over the last couple of months, is looking at what can we do, what's within our control to help clients get back to the levels that they need to see. And then we've pretty much got that nailed. We're working with clients. We understand that it's not going to be a simple, here's one package and we're going to get you back to these pre-COVID rates. I wish that it was as easy as that. But we're we're working with advertisers, really based on, pulling on the relationships that we have to put together packages that are affordable, that are deliver a positive ROI, deliver incremental sales to clients to help lift them through the next 3 months. We know it's not going to be an easy ride, but it's absolutely essential that we're there ready to take them through Q4.
Great. Yeah, I agree. Q4 could be biggest on record. Let's hope. There's a lot of making up to do. So that's COVID aside. Let's hope that it kind of slows down at least. What does the panel think are the other key trends? What was starting to happen already before we went on this, 3-month essential slowdown? What are the key things that are starting to merge in the channel? Daiana, I'd be really interested to hear from you from, an Awin perspective, who, from a network point of view, you have to be the forefront of these things. What's one of the key trends do you think people should watch out for over the next 12 months?
Yeah, as Awin, I think we are working a lot on the small business, for example, because there are a lot of micro SME that are coming to us. And so it was launched before in UK, so 1 year ago, and afterwards in the biggest market. And after COVID, we have decided, for example, to anticipate the launch in Italy in order to help the company. And this is because we try to bring performance marketing and affiliates to all these small clients that they are not used to use the affiliate channel. And we have tried to reduce their commitment and removing like the setup cost or offering the low risk commercial. And this is to help them to get directly in touch with all the publisher and try to create a really great partnership in order to start and increasing a lot all their sales. I mean, in Italy, we have received a lot of requests from a lot of clients, big brands, but also small, that they were still packed waiting to understand if it makes sense to invest in e-commerce. Unfortunately, in Italy, there are still this reality. And I think that we try to push a lot from the affiliate perspective, because now that they have stopped investing in programmatic or all brand activity, probably try to push and describe how is the brands into content, for example, could help a lot, and could create a link between the brands and directly the end user. And probably is what is it's missed now, a really true relationship that keeps the people all together.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's almost like we have this COVID-19, but we also have to continue as normal, right, and try and get things up and running. So I think it's really interesting to hear that, particularly from Italy as well. Hannah, something you mentioned earlier was around incremental sales, and you're very focused on kind of profitability, what's incremental, lifetime value. This has been a topic that always comes up in affiliate marketing, and it's almost like all clients want to do it and do it well. Is it still a focus for the next 12 months, given we're all kind of racing to catch up on sales? And, what's your kind of longer term view on that, and how do you hope to deliver that?
I think Treatwell is in a slightly different position to a typical retailer, because we ourselves are a marketplace and we rely on commission. So if for a typical retailer to say we're not going to pay commission on a repeat customer because it's not incremental, they're still going to earn quite a significant amount. Their margin is going to be still quite high. Whereas if we keep having repeat customers, we ourselves are not earning any commission from that. So for us to invest in that sort of behavior, although it would be beneficial to our partners and our publishers because we'd be able to pay them more and get more exposure, we would be losing as a result of that. So I can't speak on behalf of any kind of traditional retailers. I think for them, it is probably just about getting sales through the door, getting rid of the stock they've not been able to get rid of, and just getting that income through the door. Whereas for us, we just can't, as a business, we just cannot invest our money where we're not going to get a return from it. So we're really focusing on actually making that return more visible for our publishers, so they actually understand. They're able to see more kind of data metrics than just new or repeat. They're actually able to understand kind of the margin on what they're bringing us and the type of customers that they need to focus on bringing us, which was a focus anyway. And like I said, it's just even more important now. So our budget is there. If we can get the right type of customers and drive that incremental activity, our budget is definitely there, but we just can't invest at all where it's not going to bring us a return anymore.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? Any business, you invest where your return is higher. That's what makes businesses run. But I think it would be interesting to see how that develops and whether kind of people can get back on that track. From Rakuten Mumtaz, from a network point of view, there's been a lot of talk about automation over the past 6 months, 12 months or so, probably even longer. And what part does that play in the affiliate channel? Sometimes I think the affiliate channel has been criticized. It's a bit behind because other channels like programmatic and display in particular, they have much more automation. Does it belong in the affiliate channel? What sort of trends are you seeing network side?
Yeah, absolutely. I can start. The way I kind of picture this is kind of, the external and internal view. So for me, it's, simply what we do is a partnership network. So partnerships, internal processes, and then on the people side, because that's where a lot of our resources get put, not just the technology, but also the services side. So if I start with it, sort of the product and the partnership, I think that a lot of our businesses, network side, have been putting a lot of investment in the last kind of 12 to 18 months to try and automate what we are trying to do. Essentially, we've set up our businesses to track, report, and pay. That's fundamentally what we do today. But if I think about all of the newest features on, the advertiser and also on the partnership side, we want to be able to do things like, show incremental value, show what the yield forecasting looks like, not only from a partnerships perspective, but from an advertiser perspective as well. Help me understand what my investment's going to get me at the end of this, whether you're a publisher or an advertiser. And I think there's a lot of that investment being put into product today. So you'll see that either on the advertiser dashboard side or in Rakuten's case, we've been working on our publisher dashboard for a few years now. I'm really excited that we'll finally have, a new UI that will start to show some of these more innovative kind of features. I think matchmaking, for example, we sit on so much data. If the data is a lot more smarter and a little bit more lighter to use, and I think that you can automate much of the recommendations that you make to your advertisers and publishers to say, here's what you should be promoting next, whether that's a partnership, a category, a product type as well. So I do think there's a lot of automation coming in the product side. I think from an internal perspective, we'd like to try and do more for our people to automate internal processes. I'd like to give my team more time back to do strategy work rather than to do more reactive work. And I know that we're all kind of guilty of that, but we're really excited that we're done on automation efforts and investments in that area too.
Great. And then from the Webgains end, we've also actually, similar to what Raki was saying earlier, we've also been investing a lot of time into looking at the whole matchmaking and publisher discovery piece as well. So, definitely that is an area that should and could be automated across networks and platforms. And, how can we scale that rapidly, that matchmaking rapidly? Another sort of area that I think would be fantastic if more publishers could automate this would be implementing maybe like an online booking system for placement. So I still see a lot of back and forth, whether it's Skype or phone or email. It'd be really good if there was some way of streamlining that as well.
And I think one of the arguments I've heard against automation is around relationships. And we talked about it earlier when we were talking about COVID and how important it was, and Claire was talking about relationship with advertisers. And, I think you're right in terms of matchmaking, but does that remove something from affiliate marketing if we don't have those relationships? So that kind of matchmaking that you were saying around publishers, Montaz, if we remove that, does that remove some of the kind of uniqueness of the channel?
So I think the initial, I guess, if you were to automate it, you might get a series of recommendations. I'm assuming this is the theoretical way that networks and platforms could provide this, but that shouldn't remove it, because you would still inevitably develop some sort of relationship still with the publisher in question. That may just be the initial recommendation, but this industry is so relationship driven that I think you couldn't purely do it on an automated basis like a Google display network or something like that. There will always need to be some sort of social element. Even now during this pandemic, during this lockdown, this industry, one of the key things about its life force is, the networking, the in real life networking. Yes, we won't have that for now, for the foreseeable. But I've seen things like industry pub quizzes being set up. Certainly, Raki, you guys did one recently. I think it's really great to see initiatives like this, that we can still keep the social and relationship element going, albeit digitally.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think those kind of softer relationship metrics will go away. I think we're built on that, right? That's the DNA of what we do today. I think where I'd like to see our industry move forward, and I speak a lot about this within my own team, is I want them to work smarter, not harder. I want the data to inform the decision making. I'd want to be able to recommend 50 new opportunities to a partner rather than 5, because we've spent so much time in spreadsheets diving through data, right? If we can make this work lighter for our groups and show kind of exponential growth, I think that's really what the piece that automation is going to give to the existing relationships and the strong relationships we already have in the industry today.
Thank you, everyone. I think we're pretty much at the end of our time. Great way to finish the panel. I think, the one takeaway I always have from this industry is, like everyone said, we have some great people, and you can throw a pandemic, you can throw diversity, you can throw budgets out. We're always going to be a channel that's robust and tries to be better and be good at what we're good at. So I think that's great. So thank you very much to all the panelists and also to Affiliate Summit for hosting.